Hi guys, it's me, Andrew Markowitz again. Um, so I was gonna do that whole video on the Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes thing, but that's already a 2 hour long interview. I'm not making a 5 hour long yap session of me yelling at them and losing my mind. So instead, we're gonna do this video on from Redeem Zoomer. I like his stuff. I've liked his content for quite a while, so I'm actually quite interested um, in his thought process on this. If you kind of want to know my story, is I was Lutheran Church for the vast majority of my life, and then um, sorry for the yawn. It's a little bit late at night for me. Teenage years ended up at a non-denominational church with my grandma. Um, my mom had a falling out with our Lutheran church, and there wasn't another Lutheran church in our area. So, excuse me, me and my grandma decided to start going to a non-denominational church, and we kind of had to hop through a few of those because some of them were really bad. And really had some bad problems to them. So, after doing that, I've been basically non denominational Lutheran my whole life. I haven't really done a whole lot of intentional denomination hopping or even church hopping. It's kind of I go where I believe I'm going to hear the word of God and where I think I'm going to find the right answers.
Hey guys, I'm Redeem Zoomer, and today we're going to talk about denomination hopping, the problems with it, and why it can be sinful in extreme cases. So, I run a large Christian Discord server, which has not been very good for my sanity, and that means
I don't doubt so, bro. I'm in that server, and it makes me lose my sanity with some of the people in there, and I just go, ugh.
I have seen lots of denomination hopping, many cases of people rapidly changing the denominations they publicly identify with. If I haven't talked to someone online in like 6 months, whether it's on Discord, Instagram, whatever,
Oh boy.
I can confidently say, if I check in on this person now, they're probably a different denomination now than the last time I checked in on them. And it's like a 70% accuracy. It's kind of...
That's weird, because I would say that, like, these are the two that I really lean between. I'm definitely not Baptist. I've gone to a Baptist church once or twice. Not my thing. Not my style. I am pretty okay with Presbyterian. But like, if I had to choose one, it's either Lutheran or non-denominational, and I'm very specific about my non-denominationals. There's a large non-denominational branch called Calvary that I think does a really good job. A lot of the other ones, not always the biggest fans of them, but there is Calvary, and then there was this really little tiny church that we had back in Colorado that was also really good. But those are like the ones that I've ever approved of.
Scary. When I first started my Minecraft server, when I first opened it up to the public, that's when Eastern Orthodoxy was first getting really big online. So a lot of the people wanted to build in the Eastern Orthodox region of my Minecraft server. A lot of those people who originally built there are no longer Eastern Orthodox.
What?
Some of them have gone Catholic, Anglican, some of them reverted back to their old non-denominational church. Many of them were non-denominational the whole time, but were just LARPing as Eastern Orthodox online. So yeah, the point is, since I'm a Christian influencer, I've seen insane...
That's wild. I've never really thought about that or done that, and I don't know why people would do that. I'm in this for the truth, not really to like, oh, this is the one I'm feeling right now kind of thing.
Amounts of denomination hopping, and it's probably why I am more annoyed by it than the average person. So, The good news is, more young people are interested in Christianity than in any of our lifetimes. This is the first time traditional Christianity is actually the cool thing. Normally, traditional
Yeah.
Christianity is like the uncool thing, it's what your grandma did. But now, young people are becoming more religious than old people. So
That is a good thing to hear and a good thing to see, and I'm super happy about that. I couldn't be happier that it's at least becoming the trend. The trick should be is that we should keep it being the trend, um, and that the other thing is that you don't just oh joy.
is good. Denomination hopping is a symptom of a good thing. It's a negative side effect of a fundamentally positive development in society. So I'm not complaining about that. But the bad news is that because it's getting popular, young people use it to LARP, which stands for live action role playing. It means they use these religious identities more as external badges than things they actually have a.
I can tell you this is not my case. I think I've made my case pretty obvious by my recent videos. Um, it's still behind me, just so we're all clear. It's always behind me. Um, this is my word. This is my life. This is what I am trying to lead my life towards, and walk through and figure out. Its name is the Bible. It's an awesome book. Give it a read. Just saying.
Personal long-term commitment to. So in the 2010s, Gen Z was insanely woke, and LGBT was the thing that everyone was getting involved in. And, when I was in high school, lots of people would change their gender identity every week. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm non-binary. Now I'm like,
I remember this crap, bro. I was like, I'm glad I just stayed away from all this shit, and I was just like, I don't care. That was my policy in high school. Did it have negative repercussions because I was deep into nihilism? Absolutely. But honestly, it was better being a nihilist than the gender fluid wonky bonk that a lot of other people were. And that's not a good thing. That's not good. It should never be good to be a nihilist. And I was really quite the nihilist in high school. It was bad. I'm still a mild nihilist to this day. It's a problem. Once you get it in you, it's hard to get rid of.
trans fluid demi-queer or something like that. They made up all these 76 genders. Actually, I was taught in health class in high school that there are 76 genders. Apparently there's new genders being invented every day. But now, a lot of people are doing the same thing for denominations. Just changing their external religious identity based on whatever they feel like this morning. So, this is obviously better. It's obviously better for people to LARP with Christianity.
It is better for people to LARP with Christianity because if you LARP with Christianity, part of LARPing with Christianity is living out the values. And your brain is going to automatically, just by LARPing with Christianity, the programming will set in. And that sounds horrible, but Christianity has good programming. There's bad programming, Marxism, all those things, and then there's good programming. The Bible's good programming. I recommend following its program and living its life out. It's a good program. It does a lot for you. Go ahead and do it.
Than for people to LARP with LGBT ideologies, but in both cases it can be kind of superficial and it can lead to a lot of confusion. So
I agree that's the problem with it. It's because if you're just LARPing and you're doing this, where, oh, I was Eastern Catholic, now I'm Reformed Anglican. Dude, pick a denomination and stick with it for a decade. That's what I did. Interestingly enough, I literally got my first communion. I was born and raised, baptized in my Lutheran church as a child. Did me a lot of good. Built me in a really good structure, a really great foundation. Then my mom had her falling out. It felt really awkward to still be there as a church. I got a lot of looks and a lot of those kind of things. It was conflicted and problematic for me. So instead, I then went to a uh, non-denominational church with my grandma, and we had a church hop for quite a while until we found a good one, and that good one was Calvary. There was a Calvary church in my Colorado. Calvary's kind of like a bigger non-denominational group branch. Um, they have pretty good churches, 99% of the time. Um, Very traditional in their values and thought processes for the most part.
It's not great in either case. So, what is denomination hopping? I'm not saying, oh, you're a denomination hopper if you've ever changed your denomination, right? I'm not saying you're a denomination hopper if you were kind of denominationally homeless, just kind of going to a non denominational church because that's what you're familiar with. And then once you started to learn about theology, you wanted to be committed to a particular tradition. Like,
Okay, cool. Because I was about to say, I might actually be having a problem with this. Because I've been deep diving into theology, like, um, not only theology, but also the antithesis to theology. And you might ask, there's an antithesis to theology? Yes, its name is atheism. There are people who write books on it. Um, and you read them to understand why you should love and read the Bible more, and read the works of the fathers and the works of the early people, and you will really understand why atheism sucks. Just gonna say it. I'm too honest, and I don't care. Atheism sucks. It's a bad mentality. Um, Atheism in of itself is most of the time turns into Satanism. And my definition for Satanism is this: self worship. The reason why I define it as self worship is because the devil's greatest sin and his first sin was pride. And his first sin being pride is therefore the sin that, like, made him fall out of heaven. And therefore, in that aspect, by him falling out of heaven in that way, him getting in that way, it was self worship, self idolatry that cast Satan out of heaven. So that is the truth of the matter. Um, and on top of that, yeah, I don't really need to go on top of that too much more. I define Satanism as self idolatry. So if you worship yourself and you only believe in yourself and nothing else, that's self idolatry. That is a form of Satanism, um, and that's bad. Just gonna put it out there. That's bad. It's bad. You shouldn't do that. It's gonna make you egotistical. It's not gonna make you humble. You're just gonna be a shitty person. Okay. You're just gonna be a shitty person.
I know tons of people. Most of you guys, I'm guessing, were raised non-denominational. I wasn't, but most of you guys probably were. And
There's a lot of people who are raised non-denominational. I'm definitely an oddball and a rare one, being raised Lutheran. Um, Lutheran seems to be a pretty um, uncommon denomination to be
and
certain.
because a lot of people are investigating traditional theology, they're switching from some non-denominational megachurch to a more traditional form of Christianity, whether that's like Anglican or Catholic or Orthodox or Lutheran. That's fine. I get it. Because I think it's very good that people are digging deep into historic Christianity and not just going with the lowest common denominator stuff they're raised with. That's fine. But a side effect of this is sometimes they can rapidly change which form of traditional or historic Christianity they publicly identify with. So I don't think it's
Agreed.
denomination hopping if you just weren't generally committed to any denomination and then you committed yourself to a denomination. That's fine. I think it is denomination hopping if you regularly change what you are committed to. Because a lot of young people are just like 22, like my age, they just discover some new religious identity and they'll ferociously defend it online and get into theological debates before they even read the Bible. I know lots of people who want to get into, like, apologetics. I know this guy who wants to get into Anglican apologetics. They haven't even read their Bibles yet, and they're debating, like, the filioque
There's a reason why I call myself a student, bro. I just finished, personally, the books I just finished reading out of the Bible were, I just refinished Genesis probably for the third time in my life. I have finished Acts, Corinthians 1, Corinthians 2, um, and a couple months ago I finished two of the Gospels, which were Matthew and Luke. Um, and the furthest I've ever read in the Bible, straight through front to back, was Genesis through. I did skip Psalms, so I can't count that. It's Isaiah, it's Jeremiah. It wasn't Daniel, I think. Was it Ezekiel? I skipped Lamentations. I think. Nah. I got through. That's what it was. I got to Ezra, is where I got. So I've read a decent portion, but I haven't read the whole thing. There's a reason why I say I'm not an apologist yet. There's a reason why I've got a lot of work ahead of me. I've got a lot of like things that are coming out one at a time. There's a reason why I'm reading the books in the Bible that I'm reading, and the order that I'm reading them, and the ones that I'm choosing to read is because there are certain videos where I can make those videos that have a good building and a foundation on these things, based on these sources. And then there's going to be a historic side where it's just a bunch of historic work and a bunch of reading of the authors of the time on those denominations and things like that. When I do like my history through the denominations kind of video series that I plan on doing and stuff like that, that isn't going to actually involve too much of this. I mean, obviously, this book is what separates them and where they have their dividing lines, and I will be pointing out those interpretations and those kind of things as I do it, and I'm reading those parts and chapters as I'm looking into those things. Just the first split alone has actually been a pretty intense read on its own, trying to piece together their biblical citations, read through those biblical citations in their full context, along with the full chapters is usually what I try to do with that, or sometimes the whole book that they're sourcing, to try and get a framework for the author, all of that kind of stuff. Because I really want to make a good, long, detailed, accurate video on these splits, why they split, what this side believes, and those kind of things. And my time in non-denominational and Lutheran means that all the way up until the Lutheran split, I can be pretty non-biased and only merely interested in the material. So that's kind of my thought process and idea behind that whole series that is in the works. A lot of the times, like I said, days that you don't see me posting a video, I'm working on that. I'm doing a lot of reading of either my Bible or those sources, the history that I can find, or at the very least, I put on a audiobook of it while I'm like playing a level of Mega Bonk or just doing something kind of on the side, because I'm ADD and I do need to kind of do two things at once. Otherwise, I will not dedicate enough time to be true to it.
Oakway. Like, this is a 1,000-year-old debate. You're not going to resolve 1,000-year-old debates on TikTok especially if you haven't read the Bible yet.
Fully agree with him. Again, there's a reason why I have labeled myself in the position of a student in an early journey back into faith. Is the best way I can describe myself. And I'm kind of doing these videos in this documentation to kind of document that change and that growth. Is kind of my thought process behind it. So it is where this channel is going, it is where this channel is leading, and it is going to have those video essays. It's just in the meantime, I need to keep motivating myself to do content. Easiest content on the planet is React content, because I'm just reacting to what other people have printed. So it's what I'm gonna do, because I need to make sure I'm staying motivated. I don't like that, but it's a fact.
The people who were debating these issues, like the filioque or the miaphysitism, in earlier centuries, they knew their Bibles backwards and forwards. They were not random TikTok influencers who discovered these issues last week. So I think it is...
Agreed. There's a reason why when I go into these citations on why did they separate between the filioque, it's been a long read, and there's a reason why the first split video and the history of it hasn't come out yet. And why Catholics originally believed XYZ thing about this, and why this caused the split, why that hasn't come out yet. Because there's a lot of reading that I have to do involving this book that, you know, takes time to understand that issue and why it became a dividing line. I like to be educated and know what I'm understanding and getting into.
Denomination hopping if you basically just discovered what Eastern Orthodoxy is 2 months ago and now everyone's a heretic for not believing it. Or if you discovered what Eastern Orthodoxy was 2 months ago and then discovered trad Catholicism 1 month ago and then you changed your opinion on that and now everyone's a heretic for believing what you believed 2 months ago, you know? So that's what I'd consider denomination hopping. Rapidly and or frequently changing the denomination or theological tradition you publicly identify with and support. So it's not denomination hopping if you are still invested.
Reading his statement here, I would definitely right now describe myself as denominationally indifferent. I am more focused on, especially in my area or where I can, finding a church that is biblical, that is asserting the right values and asserting the values that I deem necessary, which I think you can obviously figure out is the Bible is a certain important source, and probably the most important source for all of Christianity, because it's where the 4 Gospels lay, and those are the most important words ever written by mankind. I want someone who's going to stay faithful to that, and finding a church that stays faithful to that is the most important thing to me. So I could care less what denomination they are, and more so, is that the founding of this church? Is that the core aspect? So it doesn't matter to me which denomination I am right now. I'm in the middle of finding and discovering that process. I am more interested in studying and diving into this stuff to come to an understanding, to come to a conclusion. I'm still in the younger years of my life. I'm only 25 years old. So I've got some time to figure that part out. I don't got time to get right with God. You're always short on time with that. I'm going to be honest with you. You're always short on time with that. So that's something important to think about, and why I value and I'm taking so much time with those videos in the background. Which, again, good golly gosh, you would think that that would be such a long set of videos to make, but like that's gonna be like the history of the split and why it happened and what led up to it is gonna be an hour-long video. is the way things are shaping up to be. And the foundational understanding of Catholicism and their idea of the filioque and what they believe about it is going to be an hour-long thing. And then the same is true for why Orthodoxy doesn't believe in the... I think... Yeah. They don't believe in the filioque. Well, they believe in the filioque, but they disagree on it. It's complicated, dude. It's freaking complicated. Like, there's a reason why that first set of videos right there alone is taking such a long time. Because there are so many parts of this that I have to read involving that part. I'm holding up my Bible, and I'm doing that a lot because I know I don't have a face cam, but I don't know. It just feels like good practice. There's so many important parts to this that I have to read and have to come to an understanding in before I can, like, even non-biasedly write a non-biased video essay on it. So if people are having argumentations on this and only discovered this crap 2 months ago, buddy, I've been working on those videos for like 2 months themselves, and it originally started as one video and it's turned into 3, and each of those is probably still like another month and a half to 2 months out. So damn, people, stop. Don't be fanatics. It's funny that I say that because people consider me a fanatic, but no. I'm dedicated to understanding is what I am.
Investigating things, if you're visiting various churches. I know lots of people who are, maybe they're coming from a non-Christian background or from a denominationally homeless background, and they're just, they'll visit a Presbyterian church, they'll visit a Catholic church, they'll visit a Lutheran church. That's fine. If you're not making a strong commitment, if you're just exploring, it's fine to explore, it's fine to look into things. But if one day you're a very passionate Lutheran, one day you're a very passionate Anglican, one day you're a very passionate Catholic, that's what I would consider denomination hopping. Now, what's the max number of times you should change denominations? I can't give you a number, but generally the more times it happens, the worse it is. Because
Agreed.
Seriously, if someone's just a different thing every year, how are they going to have any long-term commitments to
Agreed.
anything? So what is wrong with denomination hopping? You might think, oh, well, these are just a bunch of young people learning what they believe. Well, the Bible says to not be tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine.
Yep.
So if somebody is easily persuaded to believe new things, if somebody is easily talked out of their beliefs and talked into new beliefs, usually based on watching some TikToks or YouTube videos, then those same people could easily be talked out of Christianity. And I have seen that quite a bit. A lot of the same people I've seen hop between denominations have apostatized, either given up on Christianity completely or been convinced by some atheist or Muslim.
Don't be fickle. I agree that I've ran into this a lot where, like, I've seen it on TikTok, so like, I'm Christian, I'm dedicating myself to this, blah, 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 blah. 2 months later, Christianity's dumb, blah, 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 blah. And, like, they didn't even look into, like, the history of Christ. They haven't looked into crap, okay? I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna cuss. They haven't looked into crap. Right? Things of the Spirit you cannot be fickle on. They require dedication.
YouTuber. I actually have seen that. So I think it's a sign of, like, weak character. If
Fully agree.
somebody is very easily talked out of their beliefs, very easily talked into new beliefs, people should have more strength and more stability. It's not like you can ever change your ideas, but it needs to.
Fully agree. I'm fully willing to change my ideas. Know that I am probably one of the most stubborn mules on the planet when it comes to my ideas a lot of the time. Because I have deeply investigated and pounded the hammer against them. And either they have become dust, or they have hardened into steel. That is the two options of them.
happen a lot more slowly, and it can't happen immediately after just exposure to some brand new ideas, right? It's unhealthy in general, even for your secular life, because it hurts your ability to make long-term commitments. You know, the same people who have trouble committing to denominations might have trouble committing in relationships or things like that. People who are indecisive about denominations or religious matters are probably going to be indecisive about secular matters, and being too indecisive is just not good for your earthly flourishing. So I think it's a sign of good character to be able to make strong, long-term commitments and not easily be talked out of them. All right, the Bible also says that consistency matters. Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Mm-hmm. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. He says that in Matthew 5:37. Now, is Jesus addressing modern denomination hoppers on Discord? No. But he is saying that the value of your yes matters. He was addressing people who like swear by this, swear by that. It's like, I swear on my Minecraft server I will not.
Yeah, don't do that. If you're going to commit to an oath and commit to something, commit to it.
Get a low taper faith. No. If you have to swear by, these greater and lesser things, you're basically cheapening the value of
facts. Agreed.
Your yes. Even if you say yes casually, that should matter. Even if you say no casually, that should matter. The value of your speech matters. So, like I said, that's why if you're not really committed to any denomination and then you become committed, that's fine. But if you fiercely defend one religious tradition and then go back on that, and then go back on...
So, I have to be honest with you. As I stand right now, I don't fiercely defend Lutheranism. I like a lot of Luther's ideas. I've done a decent investigation at this point into his theses. I've done, I just read my catechism, what his beliefs are on that kind of stuff. So, like, for the most part, I'm like probably 85-75 on him. Is where I stand right now. But I've yet to read John Calvin. I've yet to read all these other people. So, with that being the case, I'm not going to say, well, I'm him and him all the way. Because there's more reading to be done.
That again, well then, the more times you do that, the less your words mean. Because if somebody has a reputation for consistently changing their beliefs, and now they're defending something, maybe they're defending Welsh Calvinistic Methodism, I don't know. You might ask, well...
That's a thing? See? More stuff I don't know.
How do I know that you really mean what you say? How do I know you're not going to say something else next week? They often do say something else next week. And it's good for character. It's good for Christian development for your yes to mean something and for your no to mean something. If you regularly and frequently change your religious commitments, then your yes won't really mean much when it comes to religious commitments. If one day you say yes to this denomination, one day you say yes to that denomination, one day you say no to this, one day you say no to that. It's also very important for the flourishing of all denominations, of the flourishing of all church communities. And
agreed.
Everyone of every denomination can support this mindset. Like, it is better for Protestant, Catholic, and Orthodox churches if generally there's the same people in those churches for many generations than if people are constantly bouncing back and forth between those churches. For any church community to be built up, it needs people who are committed long term. The reason that we have these historic churches is because people have had multi-generational commitments. It used to be very normal to go to the same church as your great-great-grandfather. It used to be very normal to be baptized, married, and funeral, to have your baptism, wedding, and funeral in the same church. That doesn't happen anymore because everyone wants to get the new thing. Everyone wants to change. So the American consumeristic mindset, I feel like it does not value commitment. It values novelty. And nobody cares about making anything last in the modern world. Everything we have is cheap. Our food is cheap. Our belongings are cheap.
That comes from... That is another thing that as I've traced through these things, that comes from modernism, postmodernism, that comes from... If you trace back the line, one, by tracing through Marx, you also end up tracing through all of these other people that lead back to Plato and lead back to a couple of these other guys. Ah, gosh, what was the philosopher? Basically, he had this idea and this thought process that um, everything is change, and because everything is change, nothing is real. Um, and it was like early nihilism almost. Is what can be best summed up as. Again, I don't remember the Greek philosopher. I think he was Greek. But needless to say, he had a pretty whack idea of this stuff. And as you trace through it, you do come to this understanding of like postmodernism sucks because it takes some atheistic mindsets, some nihilistic mindsets, and some socialist Marxist mindsets and things like that, and it throws them into this little pot, and it basically only values change, and it doesn't value anything else, and it's really really bad. It's just a bad ideology. It sucks. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there.
Cheap, or buildings are cheap. We want speed above quality, and that's a.
I'm sorry this isn't too much about why denomination hopping is bad. He's doing a great job into that. I'm kind of adding detail into the other aspects of stuff. Because I, for the most part, I agree with him. So I'd rather just expand on these topics to what I know to agree than I would, refute or disagree with him. I'll definitely have some videos out soon on some people that I heavily disagree with. But I'm still early enough in my years where I'd rather not jump into against people that I disagree with. Purely because of the fact that I don't feel ready for it, and I still have much more to prepare.
Problem. So I know this is sort of like an earthly argument, but it's better for everyone if people are more slow to change what church they are affiliated with. Because if everyone's
being slow and careful to change is much better than immediate submission. You should always be careful to those who immediately submit to things. Always. Always be cautious of them. Or always cautious of those who are swift to change. Because someone who is slow to change and took a long time to change is going to just, in general, be more reliable. Because they came to that slow changing conclusion over a long period of time and a long period of dwelling and thinking. So they will be far more dedicated than the one who swiftly came to that conclusion.
Just bouncing around, nobody can build up any long-lasting communities. Nobody can build up any stable communities. There's also a lot of religious trends, and there has been a religious trend every single decade. In the 2000s, contemporary Christianity was the trendy thing. It was.
I would agree. Yeah.
Something called the emergent church, and everyone during this time thought the emergent church was going to be the next big religious movement. They thought it was going to be the next Reformation, the next Great Awakening. They thought this is the future of religion. This is where a lot of contemporary churches come from, even though contemporary churches existed before this. It was sort of this like postmodern Christianity. Let's reimagine new ways to do church, bro. The emergent church, I was barely even alive for this, but it saw traditional Christianity, the stuff that's trendy now.
There's a reason why I haven't really interacted much with his Discord server recently. It's because I kept having conversations with people, and some of these people would actually kind of get on my nerves because they would be like, "Oh, is it high church? Is your church a low church?" And it's like, what value does this actually have in your Christianity and your system? That's what I care about. That's what I value most. Is like, what does this church bring and add value to the biblical word? What are they bringing to the table in terms of the biblical word and what they say about it? And how does it line up with the biblical word and what the biblical word says and what we historically know it said and historically has been taught it said, and like I can cite throughout the ages, this is what this passage means. Okay? That's a far more important value to figure out and have an opinion on and have an idealism about than this. Oh well, your church isn't as high church as mine. That crap is annoying, bro. Like, traditional has value, but only if you value and have that need for that structure and tradition. You have to do part of Christianity is self-analyzation, is self-criticism, is self-reflection, is diving into the depths of your soul and figuring out yourself, figuring out your weaknesses, figuring out what causes you to fail consistently, figuring out your deep problematic sins, like getting into all this stuff. That stuff's super important, dude. And you have a bunch of people nowadays who are so surface level. Stop being surface level. Dive into the depths. It's a damn ocean. Our problems in society are looked at on such a surface of the pond level, and we need to be diving into the depths of the ocean on them. And as a Christian, you need to be diving into the depths of the ocean on yourself and on your faith and on the Bible. That is the most important thing you can do. Literally in here, it's 310. My favorite one, 310. Where is it? 310. Let's get it open. Let's get it open. Let's get her open to 310. Literally all I have to read is right here. As it is written. What is Paul doing there in Romans, boys and girls? He's citing the rest of Scripture. What do you look at when you look at Martin Luther's citation on the Catechism? He's doing a bunch of citations and explaining passages. What can I see when I have read the works of Thomas Aquinas? A bunch of passages and citation. What can I read and see in the early church fathers? A bunch of reading and a bunch of citation. And then they all say, a part of that usually, as it is written, or see here for reference. Like, they refer back to the text and they go in on about it. Like, that is far more important than this hunky-dunky, boring bull crap. Okay? Far more important. Far more. Figure that out first. I know our education system don't teach you crap on anything. But if you can take one lesson, take that.
It saw traditional Christianity as, stale, superficial, and hypocritical, whereas the authentic stuff, the real Christianity, is this contemporary, postmodern church stuff. And then in the 2010s, you had the Young, Restless, and Reformed movement. Most of it was just Reformed Baptist, and even the Presbyterians who did participate in it were very influenced by Reformed Baptists. But it basically defined the entire Reformed tradition as the 5 points of Calvinism, and people thought this might be the future of Christianity. But the Young, Restless, and Reformed movement basically centered around a few celebrity pastors. They had some scandals. It all burnt out, and now everyone in that movement has either gone to something more high church or something more liberal. Now, in the 2020s, there's an opposite movement to the emergent church. The emergent church movement saw traditional church as, superficial and contemporary church as authentic. This trend in the 2020s sees the exact opposite. It sees contemporary.
Yeah, it's just a reversal, and that's not a good thing, because they're just going to keep doing this little goofy cycle, and it's just going to destroy itself. So you can't do
contemporary
this.
churches as superficial and traditional churches as authentic. Now the cool thing is to be in whatever church is as trad as possible. Usually
Yeah, in the communications that I had in his Discord server, that was definitely what I saw a lot of, and it kind of got on my nerves because I was like, this isn't what I'm here for. This isn't the conversations that I was seeking to have or looking for. I don't I don't think I want to, like, I'll definitely look in here and get some advice here and there from here, but this isn't a place that I want to constantly hang out and have conversations in. Because I'm going to be honest with you, conversations were kind of dumb.
this means Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox. For some reason, everyone forgets that Oriental Orthodoxy exists. There's some high church Protestants that try and be like diet Catholicism. Some people might accuse me of that, but it's like I'm not like some high church Anglican who's trying to have a Protestant rosary and Protestant icons. Like I'm actually, low church basically. Presbyterians are traditionally low church as far as magisterial Protestants go. It's just that we seem high church compared to this non-denominational chaos.
That's
but
true.
I'm not trying to advertise some niche high church Protestantism. I'm trying to advertise generic grandma boomer mainline Protestantism that was America's dominant religion
He
for
does a
most
lot,
of
bro.
its
Like,
history.
that's all of his videos.
Right? So nobody thinks they're following a trend. I've seen this trend all the time. I see lots of people converting for the trend. No individual who converts for a trend thinks they are converting for the trend.
That's true.
So if this is you, you're not going to think it's you. If this is you, you're going to think, oh, brother, I truly believe this. I know everyone else is going for the trend, but I believe this. Everyone thinks that. But you have to realize...
You heard me say, I'm not certain on where I stand on things yet. So I'm doing more investigation before I state facts and opinions. Therefore, I can probably confidently say, this isn't me following the trend. I rarely follow the trend. Because I like to just examine and look at and understand the trend and why it's happening and if it's a good idea or not. That's typically what I do while a trend is happening. And then the trend goes and fades away and then I go, oh, no one's doing this anymore. Oh well. And then I move on to the next one and go do that. That used to be like my obsession, hobby, fun time thing that I used to do with YouTube videos all the time. And what I'd have play in the background. And just slowly over time, it has just become more and more either political content or nowadays, honestly, actually more religious and Christian focused content. Mainly because I realized that the spirit is far more important than earthly matters 95% of the time. Getting right with God and being right by Him is a billion times more important than anything else I could do on this earth. That is something I am certain of. That is a trend I am willing to follow.
That group psychology is real, and your thinking is influenced by the group much more than you think it is. Hegel was...
I've been an isolationist most of my life, so...
Right?
Not my problem.
That communities do have collective minds. There is a zeitgeist.
Oh, yeah, Hegel. I've read a little bit of him. Not the biggest fan, but he is 100% right on that fact about Hegel being right about zeitgeist. That there is to a degree, a collective mind and influence. It really isn't a zeitgeist so much as a follow the crowd. That's far more accurate than what I think Hegel wrote down. Also mainly because Hegel's stuff was like so weird and almost nonsensical half the time. I didn't like reading him. He was annoying to read. He annoyed me like I read when I was reading bits of Marx. Marx is another one that like annoys the crap out of me as I read him. I found Plato less annoying, but annoying to some degree and not annoying in others. Plato was definitely actually the most interesting out of tracing that line out of all of them. But not by much, won't be honest with you. When I got into Aristotle, which I'm still diving in on, that was actually a interesting read.
There is a spirit of the age. In the 2000s, everyone felt this push towards contemporary Christianity, and now in the 2020s, everyone's feeling this pull towards Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. It's the spirit of the age. It's the zeitgeist. It's peer pressure. It's groupthink. It doesn't mean nobody in this movement is authentic. It does mean that you have to beware of the influence that religious trends have on your psychology.
Agreed.
Because in 10 years, there's going to be a different religious trend. You know, if it were up to me, everyone would want to become like a generic boomer mainline Protestant with, 4-part hymns and organs and the First Methodist and Presbyterian Church downtown. But, I'm not God. I don't shape the future, so it's probably going to be something else that I find kind of cringe. Okay, so this is something that might be kind of controversial, but I think it's generally better to be consistently in the wrong denomination than sometimes inconsistently in the right denomination. Like, I'm Presbyterian. I'd rather somebody be consistently Lutheran and committed to Lutheranism than, bouncing back and forth between Presbyterian and Lutheran, because it's more important for them to have, a stable conscience than to just be shifted around by all winds of doctrine. Now, another thing I notice, and I don't think this is good, is that everyone has a tendency to rebel against their upbringing. Everyone wants to rebel against what they're raised with. The most ferocious, Catholics tend to be raised.
I can't say I've done this for obvious reasons. Look at what I just read, and I just said, yeah, I agree with about 75%. Lutheran and Luther. So, yeah. I'm definitely going to put a bit of ego out here and say, I don't follow trends! Haha! Suck it, nerds. I do go against the grain. Haha! I'm cool. No, I'm not. I'm lame as shit, but that's okay. God will make me better.
Evangelical. The most ferocious anti-Catholics are often raised Catholic. Like, bro, I literally went to Catholic school. I'm the expert on Catholicism. And the opposite of that is, bro, I went to Waters of Life non-denominational church. I'm literally the expert on Protestantism. And we see this globally. Historically, Protestant countries like England are now going more Catholic. And historically, Catholic countries like Latin America are now going like Pentecostal and charismatic.
Yeah.
The common theme is that because of the internet, everyone's exposed to new ideas and everyone thinks...
Yeah, that does happen a lot of times when you get exposed to a new idea. Most people have it in their mind, instead of being instantly skeptical of that idea and is skeptical of those things, they want to just explore it and feel the idea, instead of being immediately skeptical and harsh of it as soon as they come into contact with it. I am weird in the fact that that is typically what I do. Is as soon as I get a new idea thrown to me, I am skeptical as shit out of it. Just am. It's how I've always been as a person. I fell into nihilism for a while when I was in my teenage years, purely because of the fact that I was skeptical of my religion, of my faith, of everything that was going on in my life and happening in my life, which is such a long story. I was super hyper skeptical, but I kept coming back to the same conclusions. God is real. Jesus Christ is a historic figure. If those two things are true, I should believe in those two things, and I should believe in the Bible. And if that's true, I just need to figure out where I fall in all of this. And it's just been a long, long journey of trying to figure that out. Whereas I go read about communism and socialism and all those things, and I instantly get skeptical, because when you plain steak idealize them in like basic terms, I'm like, that sounds like utopian. Like, that sounds like utopian fiction. I've read crap tons of dystopian novels that are all anti-utopian, because the fact that they all point out that none of this could work. That's why it's called dystopian fiction and not utopian fiction, is because of the fact that it's a dystopia in reality, because you can't actually make a utopia on this earth. We're not perfect beings, and therefore, by not being perfect beings, we will fail to make a utopia no matter how hard we try. and we will destroy ourselves in the process.
The ideas they were raised with are stale, and the grass is always greener on the other side. I think this impulse is sinful because it violates the
I would fully agree. It is a very sinful impulse that a lot of people fall into a lot of the time.
fifth commandment to honor your mother and father. Now, if your mother and father are not Christian, you gotta follow God before your parents. But the bias should be in favor of your parents rather.
Agreed. And that's where I also have to figure things out too. Is my parents haven't had a church for quite a while. Like, they're Christian, but they've been churchless for quite a while. So that's where I've been at the conflict of a lot of different things and for a long time in my life in Christianity. And this is why I'm doing this channel, is to seek and explore these things out and figure these things out and walk through it, grow in it, and then once I've built that knowledge in that position, yeah, I will take it to apologetics level, and explanatory level, and a walkthrough level on these things. But that will come in time and in the right place. And for now, I think it is far more interesting in documenting this journey
than against it. Right now, it seems like everyone is biased against what they were raised with. It's like everyone's been inoculated against what they were raised with, but they haven't been inoculated against new ideas, so they're more susceptible to new ideas. I think, this is another thing Hegel was right about, that things tend to evolve into their opposites, and especially because Hegel's ideas have influenced the modern world.
Yeah, Hegel's influenced a lot of the modern world. It's not a good thing, all I'm gonna say. It's the same problem with Freud having influenced a lot of the world, with Marx having influenced a lot of the modern world. They're all not good figures to have taken some serious influence from, and we have foolishly and blindly. But yeah, I fully agree with him because I know what he's talking about here.
Often being raised firmly in something will lead you to be very radicalized against that thing you.
Typically, yes. Typically, you will go through a phase of rebellion, intrinsically and naturally. It is important to humble yourself in that rebellion and to figure out what you are in that rebellion.
Were raised with. Anyway, so when is it okay to convert? I'm not saying you can never change denominations. I mean, I haven't changed denominations, so I'm better than you. I'm kidding. My only conversion was going from non-religious to PCUSA Presbyterian. That happened like 8 years ago. Sometimes you will change denominations, but only if you feel like that is the only way to obey God. Only if you feel like it is more important to.
100%. That part right there. This obey God part is so important.
Change denomination.
It is so important, this obey God part. Only change if you feel like it's going to be a better way to obey God. That's what I'm seeking right now. I think that's probably the best summary I can give for this at the end here is this channel is going to end up being a story of me seeking the best way to obey God and follow him. And then after I figure that out, damn right, I'm going to do apologetics about it, and I'm going to preach about it. And you're all going to have to listen to me and suffer through it. Suckers.
Nations than to be consistent in what you have said, especially.
You also get to enjoy me doing that with pop culture and the most relevant, newest social media crapstorm. Purely because of the fact that that's mildly enjoyable. I don't see any other Christian content creator doing that, and I thought it would be a great way to do content, so I'm gonna do that content.
Especially if you have, previously made a firm commitment to a denomination you're now leaving. So it's okay to change denominations at times, but you shouldn't do so lightly. It should feel like moving to a new country, and less like, changing a new favorite Netflix show, or changing your favorite fast food restaurant. Because sometimes people move between countries. I haven't done that. Most people don't do that. Sometimes people do move between countries, but it's kind of rare to, live and identify.
It's about as often, You should treat it like almost moving to a new state. Because moving to a new state doesn't happen that often either. So, like, same reverence there.
With a different country every week. It's like, today I'm American, tomorrow I'm French, the next day I'm Japanese, and now I'm African. That doesn't happen because everyone knows it's a very big thing to change what country you live in. I think changing denominations should have the same mindset. Now, a lot of people might be confused because they're overstimulated with all this denominational propaganda they're seeing from every side. If that's you, don't give up. Just pray and be patient. All these religious trends will die out, but the words of God will never die out. So it's not like you can never change your mind, but make sure you do so slowly. The Bible praises people that are patient, and it says it's not good.
That audio's been terrible the whole video. This is gonna suck. Man, I wish I had an editor.
I'm glad that this is happening because it is a sign that
I am glad too that this is happening because it's growth of the spirit and it's growth in everything else going on. So I am really happy that like we are at least seeing this being the trend thing to go on. I will fully agree with that. That looks to kind of be everything with this video. There's like a little over 7 seconds left. 10 seconds. A little less than 10 seconds. So that's going to wrap this up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Catch you all later, and God bless.